My favourite Zelda game is not Ocarina of Time nor Breath of the Wild. Those games have huge worlds and grand stories, but I prefer the little world of Link's Awakening. It's so quaint and tiny, but surrounding this game is a 20-year-long battle, and it's all about one little word. When Nintendo created Link's Awakening in the 90s, I don't think anyone could have known just how much trouble this one word would cause them. Let's start at the beginning, with the original Japanese version of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, in glorious green and black. Now, in case you didn't know, this game was originally started as a secret project for a few developers at Nintendo. After their work was done for the day, in the evenings, this group of developers would gather to work on a very weird and unique Zelda game for the Game Boy. The project was never meant to be very serious, but a few months in, they decided to show this game to their bosses at Nintendo. And to their delight, these bosses loved it. And that's how Link's Awakening got its start. So because of that, this game is very weird. Yoshi is in it, Goombas are in it, a Chain Chomp is in it, and almost every character you talk to is a little bit unique, to put it nicely. And so in the summer of 1993, Link's Awakening was released in Japan. People loved it, and the game was a big success. And so a few months later, Nintendo of America started working on an English translation of the game, in order to bring Link's Awakening to American audiences. And the man in charge of writing the English script was Dan Olsen. Just a few years ago, he'd done the English script for A Link to the Past, so it was no surprise that he was back for the game's follow-up too. However, as Olsen worked his way through writing all of the English text for the game, he came across one character who posed a bit of a problem, or at least some difficulty. Right at the beginning of the game, you wake up in this little house. You leave the house, and as you explore the village, you'll bump into this old lady sweeping the floor. If you speak to her, the very first thing she says is Yahū. In fact, every time you talk to her, the very first thing she'll say is Yahū. But what is this character's name even? Who is she? Well, in the game itself, her name is never actually mentioned. She's nameless. Luckily, the game also has a manual, and inside the manual there's descriptions of the characters from the game. While this old lady doesn't actually have a description of her own, her husband does. It says, his wife is the woman who loves to sweep, Yahū Oba-san. Now, Oba-san means grandma or old lady, so her name, according to the manual, is Old Lady Yahū. So why does she pose such difficulty? Well, it's that one word, Yahū. In Japanese, there's a fairly common greeting, Yahū. Yahoo! So the first thought when translating this woman's catchphrase is to go for a casual English greeting, like hey or heya. However, the woman isn't actually saying Yahū. She says Yahū. There's an E sound at the start. That's why I've been saying her name kind of weirdly. And that is not a common Japanese greeting. It's weird. It would sound strange to Japanese speakers. So, when he wrote the English script for Link's Awakening, Dan Olsen decided to emphasize that weirdness of it. And instead of going with a common English greeting, he went with something kind of weird in English. Yahū! And so, that became her name, Grandma Yahū. Every time you speak to her in the game, she starts her sentences with Yahū! However, little did Dan Olsen know that a decade down the line, his decision would have some, well, unexpected consequences. In 1994, 1 year after Link's Awakening came out, something else happened on the other side of the world. A website was founded called Yahū, www.yahoo.com. You could search for things on the internet, you could check the weather. It was pretty neat. The year is now 2011. And Nintendo have a new handheld console, the 3DS. It's E3, and Shigeru Miyamoto himself announces that the virtual console, where you can play old games on new systems, is coming to the 3DS that very day. And the first two games available would be Super Mario Land and Link's Awakening. Now, this was really cool. Now a whole new group of people could experience this game. That's also how I found and fell in love with Link's Awakening. So I'm gonna dig up my 3DS because I want to show you something really interesting in the game. Normally, these virtual console versions of old games are untouched. They don't fix bugs, they don't change the graphics or the text. But look at this. First, I'll leave the house that I woke up in, then I'll go find the old lady. And look. Hello! She says hello. What on earth happened? What happened to Yahoo? Well, if we look into things a bit more, it turns out that Nintendo actually removed every single mention of Yahoo from Link's Awakening's script. Some of the time, Yahoo is replaced with hello, as you saw, and sometimes they replace it with yippee, which I guess is a little more fun, at least. It's not just in the game itself though. I don't want to be dramatic, but Nintendo went out of their way to purge this one word from all Zelda media. Let me show you. In 2018, they released a book called The Zelda Encyclopedia. This was a big, thick book full of information about the entire Zelda series. Every single Zelda game has pages and pages of information about it, including Link's Awakening. And here, there's this chart of every character in the game. Here's Old Man Ulrira, and here is the Sweeping Woman. Her name is not Grandma Yahoo anymore. Instead, they changed it to Grandma Ulrira. Dun dun dun. So, what about the game's manual, where Grandma Yahoo's name was first mentioned in Japanese? Well, the English version doesn't mention Grandma Yahoo's name at all. It's been completely removed. So, what on earth is going on here? Why did Nintendo go out of their way to get rid of the word Yahoo? Well, you can probably take a good guess. Between the creation of the original game in the 1990s and this release in 2011, a major event had taken place. The web giant Yahoo had been created, and by the 2000s, it had become a behemoth of the internet. As game translation expert Clyde Mandelin explained, presumably this change was made because Yahoo, including the all-caps spelling and the exclamation mark at the end, has since become a giant global corporation and household name. So while Nintendo have unsurprisingly not explained their specific reasoning for this removal, the only plausible explanation is that it seemed a little too risky to have this company's trademark plastered throughout their game. Either they were worried about getting some kind of legal threat from the company, or more likely, they just didn't want Yahoo's logo all throughout Link's Awakening. What about the Japanese version though? Did Nintendo remove that original Yahoo from the game? No, they didn't. If you play the game in its original language, then the Sweeping Woman's catchphrase remains intact. So why is this? Well, Yahoo's Japanese name is not Yahoo, it's Yahū, which sounds a lot closer to the original. So while in English, Yahoo and Yahoo are identical, in Japanese they are completely different. Yahoo and Yahoo. So there's no clash or trademark issue there. And so the original Japanese version of Link's Awakening remains untouched. And if I made this video a couple of years ago, this would be where things ended, with Yahoo completely purged from the Zelda series. However, there is now a twist, because one rainy February evening in 2019, Nintendo revealed a big surprise they had up their sleeve. They were remaking Link's Awakening from the ground up for the Nintendo Switch. It had this beautiful anime-style opening, and the graphics were just breathtaking. But while I watched this original reveal trailer, there was one little question that was on my mind. What would happen to Yahoo? Would Nintendo bring it back, or was it really gone forever? Well, as it happened, I got my answer before the game even launched. At E3 later in the year, some Nintendo employees were demonstrating the game, just wandering around the opening area in the village. And on the corner of the screen was the woman sweeping. The person playing the game walked up to her and just looked. Yahoo! She says Yahoo again. for the first time in 20 years. But not only that, just look at her name, Grandma Yahoo. In English, the character's name was never actually confirmed to be Grandma Yahoo, up until now. This was the first time that they had ever officially translated her name as Grandma Yahoo. And believe me, I was very happy about it. But why? What changed? Well, we can only theorize since, again, Nintendo have not talked about the Yahoo incident. However, while in 2011 Yahoo was an internet giant, in 2019 things had changed. Yahoo was still around, sure, but it had fallen pretty spectacularly in terms of users. I would imagine that Nintendo weren't so worried about having their name featured in Link's Awakening anymore. So that is the story of Grandma Yahoo, who I think is one of the most interesting characters from one of my favourite games. If you've never played Link's Awakening, I'd highly recommend it. And hey, every time you speak to Grandma Yahoo, you can now fully appreciate the journey it took to get this one little word into the game. Hey, thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see next week's video as soon as possible. And I'll see you next time then. Bye bye.